On a cold night in Stockholm in 2013, Cristiano Ronaldo silenced the world with a performance that proved why he is called Mr. Clutch. Against Zlatan Ibrahimovic's Sweden, with Portugal's World Cup dreams on the line, Ronaldo delivered one of the greatest hat-tricks in football history. The night was cold in Stockholm, November 19, 2013. The air inside the Friends Arena was electric. On one side, Sweden, led by Zlatan Ibrahimovic, a giant of a striker, a superstar in his own right. On the other side, Portugal, carrying the hopes of a nation, led by one man, Cristiano Ronaldo. This was not just any game. This was the World Cup playoff, the last chance for these two nations to qualify for the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. One game. 90 minutes. Win, and you make history. Lose, and you stay home. The world was watching. It was billed as a battle of the titans, Zlatan versus Ronaldo. Two legends, two captains, both desperate to lead their countries to football's biggest stage. But for Portugal, it was more than just a game. It was survival. Portugal had struggled in qualification. They had not been convincing. Many believed they would not make it. And without the World Cup, Ronaldo's legacy would take a heavy blow. For Sweden, this was their chance to show they could rise on the world stage. Ibrahimovic had already declared, "A World Cup without me is not worth watching." Ronaldo, on the other hand, stayed silent. He did not talk. He prepared. He let his boots do the talking. The stage was set. 90 minutes in Stockholm that would decide who goes to Brazil. 90 minutes that would test legends. And on that night, Cristiano Ronaldo would not just play football. He would write history. Before the drama in Sweden, there was the first battle in Lisbon. On November 15, 2013, Portugal hosted Sweden at the Estadio da Luz. The pressure was already immense. Portugal knew they had to take advantage of playing at home. Sweden, with Zlatan, were always dangerous on the counterattack. The match was tight, tense, and full of nerves. Both teams defended hard, and chances were rare. Portugal's midfield tried to control the ball, while Sweden relied on Zlatan's strength and presence. But then, in the 82nd minute, the breakthrough came. Cristiano Ronaldo, the captain, rose to the occasion. João Moutinho slipped through a perfect pass, and Ronaldo, with his trademark timing, sprinted into the box. With one swift strike, he fired the ball past the goalkeeper. Goal! Portugal 1-0 Sweden. The stadium erupted. Ronaldo ran toward the crowd, fists clenched, eyes burning with fire. It was not just a goal. It was a message. He was ready to carry his nation on his shoulders. The game ended 1-0. Advantage Portugal. But it was not over. Everyone knew Sweden was a dangerous team at home. Zlatan, especially, was a man who could change everything in an instant. The world looked at the fixture and thought, one goal is not enough. And so, the second leg in Stockholm became a final in itself. 90 minutes to decide it all. Ronaldo versus Zlatan. Portugal versus Sweden. Brazil 2014 on the line. The football world held its breath. November 19, 2013. The Friends Arena in Stockholm was packed. Over 50,000 fans filled the stadium, yellow and blue flags waving, drums beating, and chants echoing. The atmosphere was intense, a true battlefield for football. On one side, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, tall, confident, the face of Swedish football. The fans believed in him. They believed he could take them to the World Cup. On the other side, Cristiano Ronaldo, calm, focused, carrying the pressure of an entire nation. Portugal had no plan B. Ronaldo was the plan. The referee's whistle blew. The match began. From the very start, Sweden attacked aggressively. Zlatan tried to dominate the Portuguese defenders, using his power and skill. He dropped deep, collected the ball, and looked to create. Every time he touched the ball, the Swedish fans roared. But Portugal were ready. They stayed disciplined. They knew their moment would come. Ronaldo, meanwhile, looked sharp. His movement off the ball was dangerous. He tested Sweden's defense with his pace, always ready to break behind the line. The first half was tense. Portugal had chances, Sweden had chances, but neither side could break through. The nerves were visible. Every tackle, every mistake felt heavy with pressure. Then, just before half-time, Ronaldo made his first real statement. He picked up the ball near the halfway line, sprinted down the wing, and unleashed a powerful shot. It forced a big save from the Swedish goalkeeper. A warning sign. The whistle blew for half-time. 0-0. For Sweden, this was not enough. They needed at least one goal to equalize the tie. For Portugal, the mission was simple: stay calm, wait for the chance, and trust Ronaldo. The tension was unbearable. Everyone knew the second half would decide everything. The second half began with fire. Sweden came out determined. They pressed high, they pushed men forward, and the crowd roared louder than ever. Zlatan was at the center of everything. He demanded the ball, he bullied defenders, he looked hungry. But pressing high against Portugal carried a danger. Because waiting in the shadows was Cristiano Ronaldo. In the 50th minute, Portugal found their chance. João Moutinho picked up the ball in midfield. He spotted Ronaldo sprinting down the left channel, timing his run perfectly to beat the offside trap. The pass was perfect, splitting the Swedish defense. Ronaldo was through. Just him and the goalkeeper. The stadium froze. Swedish fans held their breath. Portuguese fans prayed. Ronaldo took a touch, looked up, and with his left foot smashed the ball low into the corner of the net. Goal! Sweden 0-1 Portugal. Ronaldo sprinted toward the corner flag, sliding on his knees, fists pumping. His teammates rushed to him, celebrating. On the sidelines, the Portuguese bench exploded with joy. But inside the stadium, silence. The Swedish crowd was stunned. Their dream was slipping away. The aggregate score was now 2-0 to Portugal. Sweden needed 2 goals just to force extra time. The cameras cut to Zlatan. His face showed no fear, no panic. Only determination. He looked around at his teammates, clapped his hands, and shouted for them to keep pushing. The game was not over. Not yet. Cristiano Ronaldo had struck first. Portugal now led 2-0 on aggregate. But if anyone thought Sweden would surrender, they were wrong. Because this was Zlatan Ibrahimovic's home. And he was not ready to let the World Cup dream die without a fight. In the 68th minute, Sweden won a corner. The crowd rose to its feet, chanting Zlatan's name. The ball was whipped in, curling perfectly into the box. And there he was, Zlatan, towering above everyone. With his incredible strength, he powered a header into the net. Goal! Sweden 1-1 Portugal on the night, but 1-2 on aggregate. The stadium erupted. The Friends Arena shook with noise. Zlatan raised his arms to the sky, commanding the crowd, telling them to believe. But Zlatan was not done. Just minutes later, in the 72nd minute, Sweden won a free kick on the edge of the box. It was his territory. Zlatan placed the ball down with calm authority. The crowd fell silent. Everyone knew what was coming. He stepped back, ran forward, and smashed the ball with unstoppable power. It flew past the wall, past the goalkeeper, and into the net. Goal! Sweden 2-1 Portugal on the night. 2-2 on aggregate. The stadium went wild. Fans jumped, screamed, and cried tears of joy. Sweden was back. Zlatan had dragged them into the fight. On the sidelines, Portugal's coach looked anxious. The Portuguese players looked nervous. For the first time, doubt appeared. And in that moment, the game was balanced on a knife's edge. Zlatan had scored twice. Sweden had equalized the tie. With the momentum, with the energy, many believed they could finish the job. But in the shadows, another legend was waiting. Cristiano Ronaldo was not finished. In fact, he was just getting started. But for Ronaldo, this was just the beginning. Sweden had turned the tide. Zlatan had scored twice in just 4 minutes. The score was level on aggregate, 2-2. The Friends Arena was shaking, alive with belief. The Swedish fans roared with every pass, every tackle. Momentum was on their side. But Cristiano Ronaldo does not break under pressure. He thrives in it. In the 77th minute, Portugal found their moment. Hugo Almeida won the ball in midfield and quickly released it to Ronaldo. With blazing speed, Ronaldo sprinted into open space. Sweden's defense, desperate to recover, tried to catch him. But there was no catching him. One defender slid in. Ronaldo skipped past him. Another defender rushed across. Ronaldo brushed him aside with sheer strength. It was now just him and the goalkeeper. He took one touch with his left, set himself, and then with his right foot, fired the ball into the top corner. Goal! Sweden 2-2 Portugal on the night. Portugal 3-2 on aggregate. Ronaldo ran toward the Portuguese fans behind the goal, pointing to the name on his back. His teammates chased him, celebrating wildly. On the sidelines, Portugal's bench leapt with joy. The stadium fell silent again, except for a small section of Portuguese supporters singing with pride. Ronaldo had answered Zlatan. When Sweden thought they had hope, he crushed it. But Ronaldo was not done. His eyes still burned with hunger. He wanted more. And the clock still had time. The game was reaching its final stages. Sweden had fought bravely, Zlatan had risen like a warrior, but Ronaldo was not finished. He had already scored twice. His speed, his power, his precision, it was overwhelming. And yet, in the 79th minute, he struck again. Portugal won the ball deep in their half. Nani picked it up and immediately launched a quick counterattack. He spotted Ronaldo making another devastating run, sprinting past the Swedish defense like a bullet. The pass was perfect. Ronaldo controlled it in stride, his eyes locked on goal. The Swedish defenders chased desperately, but his pace was too much. It was as if he was flying across the grass. Inside the box, the goalkeeper rushed out to close the angle. Ronaldo, calm as ever, lifted his left foot and powered the ball into the roof of the net. Goal! Ronaldo completed his hat-trick. Sweden 2-3 Portugal on the night. Portugal 4-2 on aggregate. The Portuguese fans erupted in celebration. They could hardly believe what they were witnessing. Their captain, their hero, had delivered when it mattered most. Cristiano Ronaldo slid on his knees, arms wide open, his face lit with fire and determination. His teammates surrounded him, knowing that the dream of Brazil 2014 was now real. For Sweden, it was heartbreak. Zlatan had done everything he could, but Ronaldo's brilliance was unstoppable. 3 goals. In just 30 minutes. Against all the pressure, in the biggest game, Ronaldo had carried his nation on his back. Commentators around the world could only marvel. Some called it the greatest individual performance in World Cup qualification history. Others said it was the night Ronaldo truly proved he was more than just a superstar, he was a savior. As the final whistle approached, Sweden tried one last push. Zlatan fought, the crowd screamed, but the outcome was sealed. This was Ronaldo's night. When the referee finally blew the whistle, Portugal had done it. They had qualified for the 2014 World Cup. And the man who made it possible was Cristiano Ronaldo. The referee's whistle echoed through the Friends Arena. It was over. Portugal had done it. They had survived the storm. They had beaten Sweden 4-2 on aggregate. And they were going to the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. The Portuguese players fell to the ground in relief, some crying, others laughing. They hugged each other, knowing how close it had been. But above all, they knew one truth. Without Cristiano Ronaldo, this dream would not have been possible. Ronaldo stood tall, arms raised, sweat pouring down his face. He had scored all 4 goals across the 2 legs. 1 in Lisbon. 3 in Stockholm. A one-man army who refused to let his country fall. On the other side, Zlatan Ibrahimovic stood with hands on his hips. He had given everything. His 2 goals had brought hope, had electrified the stadium, but in the end, even he could not stop Ronaldo. With quiet dignity, he applauded the Swedish fans, then walked off the pitch, head held high. The reactions came pouring in. Commentators around the world could not stop praising Ronaldo's brilliance. One called it a heroic performance. Another said, this was not just football. This was destiny. Fans on social media exploded with emotion. Videos of Ronaldo's goals spread instantly. Hashtags like #RonaldoHattrick and #WorldCup 2014 trended worldwide. In Portugal, streets filled with celebrations. Fireworks lit the night sky. People waved flags, chanted Ronaldo's name, and danced in joy. For a small country that lived and breathed football, their hero had given them a reason to dream again. Even critics who had once doubted Ronaldo now admitted the truth. He was not just a player who shone at club level. He was a leader for his country, a man who could carry the weight of a nation on his shoulders. For Ronaldo himself, the moment was emotional. He had faced criticism throughout the qualifiers. Some said Portugal would not make it. Some said he could not lead at the international stage. But in Stockholm, he silenced them all. This was not just a victory. It was a statement. That night, Cristiano Ronaldo proved that legends are not defined by statistics alone. They are defined by moments when everything is on the line, and they deliver. And in Stockholm, Ronaldo delivered the performance of a lifetime. When history looks back at Cristiano Ronaldo's career, there are countless goals, records, and trophies. But some nights stand above the rest. Stockholm, November 19, 2013, is one of those nights. This was more than a playoff game. It was a test of greatness. Two legends faced each other, Zlatan and Ronaldo, and only one could lead their country to the World Cup. On that stage, under the brightest lights, Ronaldo delivered. For Portugal, this match became a symbol of national pride. People still talk about it as one of the greatest individual performances in the team's history. One man, refusing to give up, carrying his nation to victory. For Ronaldo's personal story, it marked a turning point. At the time, many argued about who was the best player in the world, Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. Just weeks later, Ronaldo would lift the 2013 Ballon d'Or, and many believe this hat-trick against Sweden sealed it. The images of him crying on stage as he won the award were connected to this unforgettable performance. The hat-trick also gave Ronaldo the title of Mr. Clutch. Whenever Portugal needed him most, he showed up. Whenever pressure was at its highest, he thrived. Stockholm became proof that he was not just a superstar for Real Madrid. He was a savior for Portugal. For Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the night was bittersweet. He had played brilliantly, scored 2 goals, and led with pride. But he was overshadowed by Ronaldo's greatness. Later, Zlatan would famously say, "A World Cup without me is nothing to watch." Yet, football fans around the world knew that night belonged to Ronaldo. The game also left an impression on fans globally. Even neutral supporters, people who were not Portuguese, admitted they had just watched one of the greatest performances in football history. From that day forward, whenever people questioned Ronaldo's ability to deliver under pressure, Stockholm was the answer. Years later, journalists, players, and fans still replay those goals. The speed, the precision, the power. The way Ronaldo rose to the occasion when everything was on the line. It is a masterclass, a reminder of what makes him one of the greatest to ever play the game. Stockholm 2013 was not just a match. It was a chapter in Ronaldo's legend. Football is a game of moments. Some fade, some are forgotten, but a few live forever. On November 19, 2013, inside the Friends Arena in Stockholm, Cristiano Ronaldo gave the world one of those immortal moments. With the weight of a nation on his shoulders, with critics waiting for him to fail, he rose higher than ever before. 3 goals in 30 minutes. A hat-trick that silenced 50,000 Swedish fans. A performance that carried Portugal to the World Cup in Brazil. For Zlatan Ibrahimovic, it was heartbreak. For Sweden, it was the end of a dream. But for Cristiano Ronaldo, it was destiny fulfilled. That night, he was more than just a footballer. He was a leader, a warrior, a legend. And as history remembers, it was in Stockholm where Cristiano Ronaldo proved once again that when the lights shine brightest, when the pressure is greatest, he does not break. He shines. This was the night Cristiano Ronaldo carried a nation.